Money as we know it might be the biggest social experiment in human history. Think about it. We've moved from trading physical gold to trusting pieces of paper backed by nothing but government promises.
That's such an interesting way to frame it. How did we end up making such a dramatic shift in how we think about value?
Well, it's fascinating when you look at the data. Before 1914, most major economies were on the gold standard, and the average inflation rate was less than 1% per year. But since we moved to pure fiat currency, we've seen average inflation rates of 3 to 4% annually in developed nations, and sometimes much higher in developing countries.
The implications for everyday people are pretty staggering when you think about it.
Exactly right. And here's what's really mind-blowing. Since 1971, when we completely abandoned the gold standard, the US dollar has lost over 85% of its purchasing power. That means your grandparents' savings would be worth just 15 cents on the dollar today.
That really puts into perspective why some economists are so concerned about our current monetary system.
And what's particularly interesting is how this affects time preference. You know, how we value present versus future rewards. When money consistently loses value, people naturally start focusing on short-term gains. Studies show that countries with higher inflation rates typically have lower savings rates and higher crime rates.
The connection between monetary policy and social behavior is fascinating. What solutions are emerging from this recognition?
Well, this is where Bitcoin enters the picture. Its fixed supply of 21 million coins presents a radical departure from our current system. Think about it for the first time in history. We have a form of money that becomes harder to produce over time, with its issuance rate cutting in half every 4 years.
The technical architecture behind that is pretty remarkable, the way it uses proof-of-work mining to secure the network.
Right? And what's really compelling is how it's being adopted in countries experiencing severe monetary instability. In Argentina, where annual inflation has exceeded 100%, Bitcoin adoption has grown by over 200% in the past 2 years. People are using it as a practical tool to preserve their wealth.
That really demonstrates how technology can provide solutions to age-old economic problems.
And here's what I find most exciting about this whole development. Bitcoin isn't just a new technology. It's potentially a return to sound money principles that governed economies for thousands of years. The difference is that now we have mathematical certainty rather than just trusting in physical scarcity.
The economic implications of that shift could be enormous.
Absolutely right. And we're already seeing some interesting data points. Studies suggest that Bitcoin's correlation with traditional financial markets has been decreasing over time, dropping from 0.84 in 2020 to around 0.49 in recent months. This suggests it's increasingly being viewed as a separate asset class.
Looking ahead, what do you think are the key metrics we should be watching?
Well, I think there are 3 critical indicators. First, the growth of Lightning Network capacity, which has increased 200% year over year, showing improving scalability. Second, the number of countries adopting Bitcoin-friendly regulations. We're up to 12 nations with clear legal frameworks now. And third, the percentage of coins that haven't moved in over a year, currently at an all-time high of 65%, suggesting growing adoption as a long-term store of value.
Those metrics really paint a picture of a maturing asset class.
You know what's really interesting? The way this links back to our original discussion about time preference. As more people adopt a currency that appreciates rather than depreciates over time, we might see a fundamental shift in how society approaches long-term planning and investment.
That could have profound implications for everything from education to environmental conservation.
Exactly. And as we wrap up, I think that's the key takeaway. Monetary systems aren't just about economics. They fundamentally shape how we think about the future and make decisions as a society. Whether Bitcoin succeeds or not, it's forcing us to reconsider these crucial questions about the nature of money itself.